Listen carefully. What you're about to hear is not ordinary. This is a divine money-releasing prayer that has changed lives overnight. People have prayed it once, and money, opportunities, and unexpected breakthroughs poured into their lives. It may sound unbelievable, but when faith meets words, heaven responds. Don't take this lightly. This prayer carries power, and it's scary how fast it can shift your financial reality. If you're tired of struggling and ready for abundance, stay with me. And before we begin, make sure you like, subscribe, and share this prayer. Comment the word abundance below to declare your breakthrough. There are prayers we whisper in moments of weakness, prayers we say out of habit, and then there are prayers that shift the atmosphere. This prayer is different, not because of its length, not because of its poetry, but because of the heart behind it. The scripture says in Matthew 6-8, "Your Father knows what you need before you ask Him." That means the true power of prayer is not in informing God about your needs, but in aligning yourself with His abundance. When you pray, "Lord, release wealth into my hands so that I may fulfill my purpose," you are not begging. You are declaring alignment. You are stepping into a divine economy where lack does not exist. Wealth in this sense is not just money. It is resources, opportunities, connections, and favor. But money is part of it because money is the currency of the earth. Think about it. Why do some people work harder than others, yet never seem to break free financially? It is because wealth is not earned by sweat alone. It is released through divine favor. That is why in Deuteronomy 8:18 it says, "It is He who gives you the power to get wealth." The power is given. It is not just skill, not just effort, but supernatural empowerment. This prayer activates that power. When you pray it once with true belief, it sends a ripple into the unseen world. Angels are dispatched. Doors begin to open. You start to notice opportunities you overlooked before. You meet people who carry the missing pieces to your puzzle. And here's the scary part. The shift often comes so suddenly that it catches you off guard. I've heard testimonies of people who prayed with faith and within days received unexpected checks, promotions, business deals, or debt cancellations. The world calls it coincidence. But in the spiritual realm, it is divine orchestration. Imagine yourself holding a seed. That seed, if left in your hand, does nothing. But when planted in soil, it awakens. Prayer is planting. Faith is watering. And manifestation is the harvest. This prayer for wealth is a seed small when spoken, but mighty when believed. The key is to pray not just for selfish gain, but with the intention to be a channel of blessing. Say, "God, make me wealthy so I can bless others, support my family, build your kingdom, and lift those in need." That intention multiplies the power of the prayer, because money that has purpose attracts more money. So today, as you listen, let this prayer rise within you. Father, I receive your abundance. I receive your wealth. Open the windows of heaven and pour financial blessings into my life so that I may fulfill my purpose and be a blessing to others. I believe, I receive, and I declare, it is done. When you say it, believe it, don't doubt. That single prayer spoken with faith has the power to set in motion the flow of riches that were always meant for you. We often think of wealth as numbers in a bank account. But the truth is, wealth begins in the mind long before it appears in the hands. Proverbs 23:7 says, "As a man thinks in his heart, so is he." That means if you think poor, you will live poor. If you think abundance, abundance will find its way to you. Prayer without mindset is like pouring water into a broken cup. You may receive, but it will leak away. That's why so many people pray for money. But the moment it comes, it slips through their fingers, overspending, mismanagement, fear, and scarcity, thinking rob them of what was given. But when you pray with a renewed mindset, you create a vessel that can actually hold the blessing. For example, if you constantly tell yourself, "I'll never have enough," you are setting a spiritual limit on your own finances. But if you begin declaring, "I am a magnet for divine wealth, I am capable of handling great riches," you rewire your mind to expect and retain prosperity. A millionaire mindset is not arrogance. It is stewardship. It is the belief that you are capable of carrying resources and multiplying them. Think of the parable of the talents. The master gave one servant 5 talents, another 2, and another 1. The ones who multiplied their wealth were rewarded with more. The one who buried his out of fear was stripped of even what he had. Fear kills wealth. Faith multiplies it. This is why the prayer works best when paired with a shift in self-perception. If you see yourself as a vessel of abundance, you begin to walk differently, talk differently, and think differently. Opportunities that you once overlooked now stand out. People sense confidence in you and want to connect with you. Money flows where it feels safe. Here's a real example. A woman once prayed for financial breakthrough. Days later, she was offered a promotion. At first, she wanted to decline, believing she wasn't capable. But after affirming, "God equips me for what He gives me," she accepted. That position not only multiplied her income, but also opened doors for her to mentor others. The wealth was not just money, but influence. So remember, the prayer is powerful, but your mindset is the container. If you pray for wealth, prepare your mind to manage wealth. Wealth will not flow into a cup with holes of doubt, fear, or low self-worth. Fix the vessel, and the blessing will overflow on. Of the most overlooked truths about wealth is that it responds to asking. The spiritual world operates by principles, and one of the most foundational principles is found in Matthew 7:7. Ask, and it shall be given to you. Seek, and you shall find. Knock, and it shall be opened unto you. Notice the 3 actions: asking, seeking, and knocking. Each one carries a level of intensity. Asking is making your desire known. Seeking is pursuing what you asked for with intentionality. Knocking is persistence until the door opens. This is the law of asking and receiving. Most people fail at the very first step. They never ask, they wish. They dream, they complain, but they never boldly ask. They whisper small prayers like, "Lord, just help me get by," instead of declaring, "Lord, enlarge my territory. Release abundance into my hands." Small prayers attract small results. Big prayers, spoken in faith, attract big results. Asking is not weakness, it is boldness. A child has no problem asking their parent for what they want. Sometimes, over and over again, they ask because they trust their parents' heart. In the same way, God delights when we come to Him with bold requests. He is not intimidated by our dreams. He is the one who placed them there. But asking must go deeper than words. It must be backed by expectation. James 1-6 warns us, "But let him ask in faith with no doubting. For the one who doubts is like a wave of the sea that is driven and tossed by the wind." This means when you ask, you must already see yourself receiving. If you pray for wealth but secretly doubt that money could ever flow to you, you cancel the prayer with unbelief. Let's put it in practical terms. Imagine a farmer who asks God for rain but never plants seeds in his field. Even if rain comes, there will be no harvest. Asking requires preparation. If you pray for a business breakthrough, prepare by learning about the business. If you ask for a financial promotion, prepare by improving your skills. If you ask for debt cancellation, prepare by managing what you already have wisely. Your preparation signals to heaven that you are serious about receiving. I recall a young man who prayed for financial increase. Every day, he asked for money but did nothing beyond prayer. Then one day, he changed his approach. He began searching for ways to multiply his skills, attending networking events, and positioning himself for opportunities. Within months, a door opened for him to partner in a business that brought steady income. What changed? His asking became aligned with seeking and knocking. The scary part about this law is that it always works, whether for good or for harm. If you constantly ask life, "Why am I always broke? Why do bad things always happen to me?" you will receive answers that reinforce your poverty. Your words are seeds. If you plant negative questions, you harvest negative answers. But if you ask in faith, "Lord, how can I step into abundance? Show me the door to wealth you prepared for me," the universe aligns to give you the response. Asking is permission. Heaven will not force wealth upon you. God respects free will so much that even his blessings wait for your invitation. You must ask. You must open your mouth and declare. This is why silent desires often remain unfulfilled. Here is a prayer you can ask right now. Father, I ask for divine wealth to flow into my life. I ask for opportunities, connections, and financial blessings that align with your purpose for me. Open doors no man can shut. I am ready to receive. I am ready to steward what you place in my hands. Say it with faith. Say it with expectation. Say it until your spirit believes it. This is the law of asking and receiving, simple, but powerful enough to transform poverty into prosperity in the physical world. Money is the currency of exchange. You hand over money to receive goods, services, or opportunities. Without money, many doors remain closed. But in the spiritual realm, money is powerless. Heaven does not respond to dollars, pounds, or rupees. The only currency that has value in God's economy is faith. Hebrews 11:6 declares, "Without faith it is impossible to please God, because anyone who comes to him must believe that he exists and that he rewards those who earnestly seek him." Notice that last part, he rewards. That means faith not only pleases God but also activates reward. Faith is the transaction that pulls heaven's resources into your earthly life. When you pray for wealth, you are essentially writing a check, but the signature that authorizes that check is faith. Without faith, the prayer bounces. It has no value in the heavenly system. With faith, however, the prayer becomes a legal transaction, drawing resources, favor, and opportunities into your reality. Now, faith is not blind wishing. Faith is conviction. It is standing on God's promises as if they are already delivered. It is seeing the invisible as more real than the visible. For example, when you pray, "Lord, I receive abundance," faith says, "It is already mine, even if your wallet is empty." Faith says, "This is temporary, because heaven has already released what I need." This is why faith often looks scary. To outsiders, it seems reckless. Noah built an ark when there was no rain. Abraham left his home without knowing where he was going. A widow gave her last meal to a prophet in faith and ended up with an overflow of oil. Faith always stretches you beyond what makes sense, but that's where the miracles happen. Here's a real-life example. A man once lost his job unexpectedly. Instead of panicking, he declared daily, "I walk in divine provision. God is my source, not my employer." Weeks later, he was offered a consulting contract that tripled his former income. What was the difference? Faith positioned him to expect abundance when circumstances screamed lack. Faith is also the antidote to fear. Fear says, "What if I lose everything?" Faith says, "What if I gain everything God promised me?" Fear paralyzes. Faith mobilizes. Fear closes doors. Faith opens them. The wealth you desire is often on the other side of a faith step, a bold decision to act as though the promise is already fulfilled. This is why faith must be exercised daily, not just in crisis. Think of faith like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it becomes. Start by believing for small provisions, daily needs, minor breakthroughs. As you see God respond, your faith grows. Then you can believe for bigger financial shifts, business launches, real estate, debt cancellation. Each answered prayer becomes proof that the system works. Faith also has a sound. It shows up in your language. If you're praying for wealth but constantly saying, "I'm broke, I can't afford this. Nothing ever works for me," you are speaking unbelief. Faith says, "I am abundantly supplied. Money flows to me. I am favored. Opportunities are chasing me down." Your words either purchase blessings or block them. The scary beauty of faith is that it attracts what you believe, good or bad. That's why Jesus said in Mark 11:24, "Whatever you ask for in prayer, believe that you have received it, and it will be yours." Believe that you have received. It's already done. That's the key. So, when you pray the wealth prayer, don't just hope, believe. Picture the money in your account. See yourself dead, free. Imagine signing the deal, holding the keys, giving generously. Feel the joy of it now. That is faith in action, living as if the answer has already arrived. Let this be your declaration. I transact in the currency of faith. My prayers are backed by belief, and therefore they cannot bounce. I receive wealth because I believe. I receive abundance because I trust. I walk in divine provision because I know heaven always funds its purpose. Faith is your currency. Spend it boldly. If faith is the currency of heaven, then gratitude is the multiplier. Gratitude is what takes the seed of your prayer and causes it to expand beyond your imagination. Many people overlook this principle because they think gratitude is something you express only after you receive. But in the spiritual economy, gratitude is most powerful when expressed before the blessing shows up. 1 Thessalonians 5:18 instructs us, "In everything give thanks, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus concerning you." Notice, it does not say for everything, but in everything. That means whether you are in abundance or in lack. Gratitude is still the key posture of the heart. Gratitude in scarcity tells heaven, "I trust that the blessing is already on the way." Think of gratitude as a magnet. When you say, "Thank you, Lord, for the financial overflow that is coming," you pull the unseen closer to the seen. You align your spirit with abundance, not lack. Complaining, on the other hand, pushes the blessing away. Complaining tells heaven, "I don't trust you. I only believe what I see." Gratitude says, "Even if I don't see it yet, I know you are faithful." Here's a powerful truth. Gratitude unlocks multiplication. Remember the story of Jesus feeding the 5,000. He had only 5 loaves and 2 fish. By human logic, it was impossible to feed the crowd. But before he multiplied the food, what did he do? He lifted it and gave thanks. Gratitude was the trigger for multiplication. What you thank God for increases. What you complain about decreases. I once heard of a man who had been struggling financially for years. One day, instead of focusing on his lack, he began writing a list of everything he could be thankful for. The roof over his head, his health, his small but steady income. Even the fact that he had breath in his body, he began saying out loud, "Thank you, God, that I am already wealthy in ways I cannot yet see." Within weeks, his attitude shifted so much that people noticed. A former colleague, impressed by his positivity, offered him a partnership in a project that changed his financial life. Gratitude had unlocked favor. Gratitude is also a safeguard. Wealth without gratitude leads to pride and destruction. Gratitude keeps you grounded, reminding you that every blessing is a gift, not an entitlement. This humility ensures that you remain a trustworthy vessel for even greater riches. God will not pour abundance into hands that forget to say thank you. But here's the scary truth. Ingratitude is a wealth blocker. The Israelites in the wilderness are a clear example. Though God gave them manna every morning, they complained daily. Instead of gratitude, they grumbled. and that generation never entered the promised land. Complaining locks you out, gratitude ushers you in. So how can you apply this in your own life? Start by building a gratitude practice. Each morning, thank God not just for what you already have, but also for what is on the way. Say things like, thank you, Lord, for the financial breakthroughs coming my way. Thank you for the opportunities being prepared for me right now. Thank you for the money that is already mine in the spiritual realm. By thanking in advance, you shift your vibration from scarcity to abundance. You tell your subconscious mind to expect blessings. You send a signal into the universe that you are ready to receive. Gratitude also keeps your joy alive. Wealth without joy is meaningless. There are people with millions who live in misery because they never learned gratitude. But a grateful heart is always rich, regardless of circumstances. And when heaven sees a heart that remains thankful in little, it knows that heart can be trusted with much. Here's a declaration for you. I am thankful for the wealth that is already mine. I give thanks for the resources, the opportunities, the money, and the favor flowing into my life. Gratitude multiplies my blessings. My heart is open, my spirit is thankful, and therefore my abundance overflows. Gratitude is not just good manners, it is a wealth strategy. And when paired with prayer and faith, it creates a spiritual formula that cannot fail. There is a reason why some people pray for money and nothing changes, while others pray and suddenly doors open. The difference often lies in one powerful truth. Money flows to purpose, not to laziness. Wealth is not meant to sit idle. It is a tool, a servant designed to fulfill assignments. God never releases abundance without reason. That's why Proverbs 19:21 reminds us, many are the plans in a person's heart, but it is the Lord's purpose that prevails. Purpose attracts provision. When you discover your purpose, money knows where to find you. Think about it. When Joseph was in Egypt, he wasn't just blessed with wisdom for himself. His purpose was to preserve a nation during famine. That purpose attracted Pharaoh's resources, favor, and wealth. Purpose was the magnet, and abundance was the response. On the other hand, laziness repels money. Proverbs 10:4 is blunt. Lazy hands make for poverty, but diligent hands bring wealth. Prayer without action is spiritual laziness. You cannot pray for wealth while refusing to step into the assignment that money was meant to fund. Wealth follows movement. Money is drawn to productivity, not stagnation. I once knew a man who prayed constantly for financial breakthrough, but spent his days scrolling aimlessly on his phone. No plan, no discipline, no vision. He expected wealth to knock at his door uninvited. But money is not attracted to inactivity. It seeks purpose-driven people, those who know why they need it and what they will do with it. Contrast that with a young woman I met who also prayed for wealth. But her prayer was different. Lord, bless me so I can build schools for children in need. She had a vision beyond herself. She worked diligently, pursued opportunities, and kept her purpose at the center. Within years, not only did she build the schools, but her own financial life exploded with abundance, purpose, unlocked provision. This is the scary part. If you pray for money without purpose, you may receive some, but it will slip away. Money without direction breeds waste. Look at lottery winners who suddenly gain millions but lose it all within a few years. Why? Because they had no purpose for the money. They thought wealth was for pleasure alone, not assignment. Purpose protects wealth. So, how do you align with this principle? Start by asking yourself, why do I want wealth? If your answer is only for comfort, status, or pleasure, the flow will remain limited. But if your answer is to impact lives, to build, to serve, to fulfill God's assignment, then the flow will multiply. Heaven funds vision, not vanity. Even in small things, purpose matters. If you say, Lord, give me $10,000, attach purpose to it. Say, Lord, give me $10,000 so I can pay my debts, support my family, and invest in opportunities that multiply. Purpose gives money an assignment. And when money has an assignment, heaven authorizes the transfer. Laziness, however, blocks that transfer. Laziness is not just about being idle. It is also about procrastination, excuses, and fear-driven inactivity. Laziness whispers, I'll start tomorrow, while purpose says, I'll start now. Laziness sees obstacles, purpose sees opportunities, and money always runs toward purpose. This is why when you pray the wealth prayer, you must also commit to diligence. Wake up with intention. Take steps toward your dream. Learn, grow, network, create, invest. Even if it's small, movement signals to heaven that you are ready to handle more. Remember the parable of the talents. The master gave resources to 3 servants. 2 worked diligently, doubled what they had, and were rewarded with even more. 1 buried his out of laziness and fear, and even what he had was taken away. That story is a blueprint. Wealth multiplies with purpose and diligence. But wealth withers in laziness. Here's your declaration. I am a person of purpose. Wealth flows to me because I have an assignment bigger than myself. I am not lazy. I am diligent. I do not procrastinate. I act. Money serves my vision, and my vision serves God's purpose. Therefore, resources chase me down, and abundance is my portion. Understand this truth. Money is a servant, not a master. When you align with purpose, you become the master who directs money to fulfill a divine assignment. But when you live in laziness, money ignores you. Choose purpose, and watch how quickly the flow of wealth finds its way into your hands. There is something about divine wealth that often shocks people, not just the amount, but the speed at which it can arrive. When God decides it is time, manifestation happens suddenly, almost overnight. And that suddenness can feel scary, because it reminds you that spiritual laws move faster than human logic. Amos 9:13 paints this picture clearly. The days are coming, declares the Lord, when the reaper will be overtaken by the plowman and the planter by the one treading grapes. New wine will drip from the mountains and flow from all the hills. In other words, the harvest will come so quickly that it will outrun the planting. That is supernatural acceleration. Think about Joseph in Egypt. One day he was in prison, forgotten and rejected. The next day, he was elevated to prime minister, second only to Pharaoh. That kind of promotion does not make sense in human terms. It is the scary speed of manifestation. Or consider Ruth. She went from gleaning leftovers in a field to owning the field through marriage to Boaz. That shift was not gradual. It was sudden. That is how divine wealth flows when the time is right. Why does it feel scary? Because we are conditioned to believe everything takes years, even decades. We are told, be realistic. Wealth takes time. Don't expect miracles. But when faith, prayer, and purpose align, the process collapses. What should take 10 years can happen in 10 months. What should take 10 months can happen in 10 days. I once heard the testimony of a man drowning in debt. He prayed desperately for financial release. Within 2 weeks, a forgotten inheritance was released to him that not only cleared his debts but left him with surplus. He described the experience as frightening. Not because it was bad, but because it was too sudden, too perfect to be coincidence. That's the scary speed of manifestation. Here's the principle. When preparation meets divine timing, acceleration occurs. Your years of struggle are not wasted. They are preparation. But when the appointed time comes, manifestation is not delayed. That's why Galatians 6-9 encourages us. Do not grow weary in doing good, for in due season we shall reap, if we faint not. Due season is real, and when it comes fast. But sudden manifestation can also be overwhelming if you're not ready. Imagine praying for wealth, then suddenly receiving more than you ever expected. If your mindset, gratitude, and purpose are not aligned, the blessing can feel like a burden. That's why the earlier principles matter. They prepare you so the sudden flow doesn't drown you, but elevates you. Let me give you a practical picture. Think of water flowing through a pipe. If the pipe is small and weak, too much water at once would burst it. But if the pipe has been reinforced, it can handle the sudden flow. Your faith, gratitude, and purpose are the reinforcements. When manifestation comes suddenly, you won't break. You'll overflow. Here's another story. A woman prayed for years to start her own business. Nothing seemed to happen, but she remained faithful, preparing in silence. Then one day, an investor she never met called her after hearing about her idea through a mutual friend. Within weeks, she had funding, an office, and a team. She said, "It happened so fast, I could barely keep up." That's divine acceleration. The scary speed of manifestation is not meant to frighten you. It is meant to remind you that God's timing is not man's timing. When heaven moves, delays end. Doors open without explanation. Wealth appears from directions you never anticipated. So instead of fearing the suddenness, embrace it, expect it, declare it. Say, "Wealth can arrive suddenly in my life. Opportunities can appear overnight. Debts can vanish in an instant. Contracts, partnerships, and financial blessings can manifest so quickly that it will shock me, but it will not surprise God." Here's your declaration. I am prepared for sudden manifestation. I am ready for divine acceleration. Money flows into my life at a speed that astonishes the natural mind. What should take years will take moments. What should take moments can happen instantly. I receive it now in faith. When you truly believe this, you will no longer fear the speed. You will celebrate it, because sudden wealth is not scary when you understand it. It is simply the fulfillment of prayers, faith, and preparation meeting divine timing. Every revelation requires a response. It is not enough to hear about wealth, sudden manifestation, and divine provision. You must step into it. This is where faith moves from theory to reality. God never gives a word to entertain. He gives it to activate. And the activation begins with a call to action. Pray, believe, act, and testify. Prayer is the starting point of all manifestation. James 4:2 says, "You do not have because you do not ask." Heaven is full of resources waiting for permission to enter earth through your words. When you pray, you authorize divine wealth to flow into your life. But prayer is not begging. It is alignment. You are not trying to convince God to bless you. You are aligning your spirit with what He already promised. When Solomon prayed for wisdom instead of wealth, God gave him both. Why? Because prayer positioned his heart in alignment with divine intention. The same is true for you. When you pray daily for financial release, you invite God's creative power into your circumstances. But prayer is not casual. It is intentional. Be specific. Instead of saying, "Lord, bless me financially," declare, "Father, I thank you that $10,000 will flow into my life within 30 days for this project. I receive it now by faith." Specific prayers create specific results. Prayer without belief is empty words. Mark 11:24 says, "Whatever you ask for in prayer, believe that you have received it, and it will be yours." Notice the language. It does not say believe you might receive it. It says believe you have received it. Faith sees the invisible as if it were visible. This is the hardest part for many, because the natural mind fights against unseen realities. But belief is not about evidence. It is about conviction. You must believe you are wealthy, even when your bank account is empty. You must believe money flows toward you. even when bills are piling up. There was a woman in Africa who prayed for school fees for her children. She told her kids, "Pack your bags. You're going to school tomorrow." She had no money in her hand, but she believed. That night, a neighbor unexpectedly brought the exact amount she needed. The children went to school the next day, and her testimony spread through the village. Her belief pulled the miracle from heaven into reality. Faith without works is dead. James 2:17. After you pray and believe, you must take action. Many people are waiting for wealth to drop from the sky, but divine wealth often flows through opportunities, ideas, and steps of obedience. If you believe God will bless your business, start preparing the business plan. If you believe God will send investors, start networking. If you believe money is coming, create the bank account, set the budget, and position yourself. Action is proof of belief. Remember Peter walking on water. He prayed, "Lord, if it's you, command me to come." God said, "Come," at that moment. Peter had to act. If he had stayed in the boat, nothing would have happened. But when he stepped out, the miracle activated. Your financial manifestation also requires you to step out. The final step is testifying. Revelation 12:11 says, "They overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony." Testimony seals manifestation. When you testify about financial breakthroughs, you are not just sharing a story, you are releasing faith for others to receive the same. One man prayed for years for a debt. Free home. When it happened, he stood in church and testified. Another couple heard his story and said, "If God did it for him, he can do it for us." Within months, they also received a mortgage, free home. Testimony multiplies manifestation. This is why silence is dangerous. If you hide your testimony, you rob others of faith. But when you boldly declare, "God gave me this promotion. God opened this door. God released this money," you inspire a chain reaction of blessings. The full circle: pray to invite, believe to receive, act to prove, testify to multiply. That is the divine cycle of manifestation. And when you commit to it, you position yourself not just to receive wealth, but to live as a channel of abundance. Here is your final declaration. I am a magnet for divine wealth. I pray with faith. I believe without doubt. I act with courage, and I testify with boldness. Money flows to me, through me, and multiplies around me. I am ready, I am aligned, and I am positioned for sudden financial breakthroughs. Take this call seriously. Do not leave it as information. Make it transformation. Because the next testimony of sudden wealth, divine overflow, and supernatural manifestation could be yours.